Now, the Big Ten Conference has been one of those that's been viewed as, not maybe as equal to the SEC on the field, but it's been all right there, maybe as that 1B, the definite number 2 conference, just because of the amount of talent. They've won national championships recently with Ohio State. However, the last 2 years, they haven't made the college football playoff. Teams kind of beat up on each other. Just missed out. Ohio State, has had, their claim to try to be in there. This year should be interesting just because there's a lot of turnover. Urban Meyer's gone. We've had a lot of the top quarterbacks and players leave. So it should be real interesting to see what happens in this division this year. If we go to the East, that's the traditionally the most competitive division. Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, kind of a murderer's row of teams. This year, it's real hard. Last year we thought Michigan or Ohio State, who's going to win. It's going to come down to the final game between those two. I think that's going to be the case this year, but don't count out Penn State. I think it's going to be a 3-team race and kind of jockeying to see who's going to win that division. Now, my pick to win the East is going to be Michigan. Yes, they lost a lot on that defense. No Chase Winovich, no Rashawn Gary. Their linebacker, Devin Bush, is gone. So they've lost a lot, but this is also a well-run defense by Don Brown. They have a lot of, the scheme kind of allows them to kind of plug and play. They do have Lavert Hill back at cornerback as their top defensive back. They've got Kalika Hudson as kind of that Jabril Peppers safety linebacker combo. So they've got guys, they've got talent, they've recruited well. They just got to be able to get those guys out. Offensively, this is where I think they're going to be improved. They get Shea Patterson back, and not only do they get him back, and he was starting to play better towards the end of the year, but not only do they get him back, but he's also playing back in a spread offense. Josh Gaddis is in as their offensive coordinator, coming from Alabama, who was, before he was the wide receivers coach at Alabama, he was with Joe Moorhead at Penn State. So he's going to supposedly run an up-tempo, spread-ish type system. Be curious to see if they stick with that. So I think that will definitely benefit Shea Patterson. He doesn't have to play under center, playing that pro style. So that should aid in him. They're getting, they've got quality receivers, Nico Harris and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Tyreek Black hopefully is healthy. They've got an experienced line. I think this offense has the potential, if Gaddis is, he's dubbed as the wonder coordinator, this up-and-comer, if he can get this offense going and Harbaugh lets him, Michigan's offense could take a huge jump, which would be great because it then allows that defense to kind of get their footing and Don Brown to get guys up to speed. Now, Ohio State's sitting back there. The reason why I'm a little hesitant on them is Urban Meyer's not their coach. Say what you will about Urban Meyer, he's one hell of a coach, and he knows how to motivate and scheme. He's won national championships. He's seen it all. Ryan Day's the head coach. And Ryan Day has been the coordinator there. Yes, he coached them for 3 or 4 games when Urban Meyer was suspended or sat out, whatever you want to call it. But he hasn't technically proved himself to run that program for the long haul. Is he going to be the next Urban Meyer? Who knows? I don't think there's a great track record of coaches who have been promoted from within, when they've had a legendary coach go away. So Ryan Day's got his work cut out for him. Offensively, Justin Fields is there. He was the former number 1 overall recruit, 5-star quarterback, goes to Georgia, can't beat out Jake Fromm. Even when he plays in kind of those packages, he really didn't do much last year. How is he going to be as the full-time starter? Can he live up to that hype? He's explosive. He's got a strong arm. Can he put that all together to lead this offense? They've got talent. They've got linemen. They've got some, receivers coming back from last year. Defensively, they've always got good players. Chase Young, the defensive end, has got number 1 overall pick potential. He's a big, explosive athlete. Jeffrey Okuda at cornerback is another first-round potential cornerback, tall, fast, explosive. So they've got their Ohio State players. I think the big thing that's going to separate Ohio State from making the playoff or not making it or not beating Michigan is the combination of Justin Fields and Ryan Day. If Justin Fields can live up to the hype that we haven't seen yet in college, and Ryan Day can continue to prove that they made the right decision hiring him and not going outside the program, that will be the big difference with Ohio State. Now, I have Penn State finishing third. I very well could see them winning this division, and it's going to be different than what we've seen lately with Penn State. Since James Franklin has taken over, they've been an offense-heavy team. You had Saquon Barkley, and you've had Trace McSorley, and Miles Sanders, and all the Deshaun Hamilton. They've had a lot of offensive weapons, and they've been the spread, score a lot of points. Well, they've got to replace all those guys, but luckily they've got a strong D that allows them to do it, and they're going to have to rely on that. I'm really curious to see how Micah Parsons is going to do as a full-time starter. He was a true freshman last year, worked his way into the starting lineup, and I know doing some scouting, especially on Gross Matos, their defensive end, who's another dynamic edge rusher. Micah Parsons kept popping, and so I think he's a linebacker to kind of keep an eye on this year and in the next couple of years for the NFL draft. Like I said, I think Michigan wins this, but I wouldn't be surprised if these teams kind of beat up on each other. You can't forget about Michigan State. They had a little bit of a down year last year, but they're going to be well coached and they're going to be coming up. I don't think last year we went into Michigan, Ohio State, two teams winning. Whoever won that game was going to have a shot to go to the college football playoff. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think they're going to beat up. I think they could each have one or two losses in conference, and they may be good teams, but they're not going to have the resume to get them to the college football playoff. The West of the Big Ten, this is where it gets really interesting. Normally, it was the East teams were the star teams, and it's just like, oh, well, who's going to win from the West? Hopefully, Wisconsin's got a good team. This year, it's wide open. You have 4, potentially 5 teams that could really win this division. Minnesota under, is looking to really improve. They've continued to get better. Tyler Johnson, their receiver, is one of the best receivers in college football. He's going to be one of the best receivers in the NFL draft in a loaded group. I don't think they're quite there, but they wouldn't shock you if they got there. Northwestern's another team. They won the division last year. They didn't have a great overall record, but they won in the West. Hunter Johnson is their quarterback. He's a former 5-star recruit from Clemson. He got beat out by Trevor Lawrence. He ended up going to the Wildcats. Can he live up to that? Now, you say that, hey, former 5-star, he's going to fit in, he's going to lead this offense. But there's reports that T.J. Green, the son of his dad's a former NFL quarterback. I can't think of his name. But he kind of played at times last year with Clayton Thorson. He's looking, he's still in that mix, and they haven't named a starter yet. And you would think at this point they would have that guy in there. So what does that tell you about Hunter Johnson? Hey, is he the savior that this program needs to get him back into that Big Ten championship game? I think this East comes down to a 3-team race: Nebraska, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Iowa's, your steady Eddie, always consistent, strong offensive line, strong running game, quality defense. That's going to be the case this year. They've got another elite offensive line. Tristan Wirfs, the right tackle, is a potential top 10 NFL draft pick. Alaric Johnson's another guy that some people have talked about as a first-round pick. So they've got those 2 bookends. Nate Stanley's back. I know Todd McShay is a huge Nate Stanley fan. Mikael Sargent's back at running back. But what do they have at receiver? They lose TJ Hawkinson. They lose Noah Fant, the 2 tight ends. Those were their 2 playmakers. They had the ability to move those guys around and really use them as weapons and mismatch options. They don't have them anymore. Do they have another tight end in the wings? They've kind of been tight end U lately, so that'll be kind of curious. Wisconsin, here's a team that a lot of people thought couldn't make a run at the college football playoff last year. They took a huge step back. They really struggled. Are they going to be bounced back? I'm not quite sure. They lost a lot, especially along the offensive line. David Edwards is gone. Uh, Ben Brownagle's gone, the right guard. Michael Dieter is gone. They get their center back, Tyler Bides. I probably mispronounced that. One of the better, he's got first round pick potential. Jonathan Taylor, the running back's back. The defense is always just being able to plug and play. So I think they'll improve, but they've got a lot of holes to fill. They don't really have a dynamic quarterback. Hornibrook is gone. And I think some people are kind of excited about that. But do they have enough? If teams are able to slow down their rushing attack, easier said than done, do they have enough on the outside? Do they have enough at their quarterback to be able to still make plays? That's what I'm looking to see. My pick is Nebraska to win this division. Maybe it's blind optimism. I know a lot. It's the trendy pick to do. Scott Frost is in his second year. Look at what he did at University of Central Florida in his second year, leading them to that undefeated season. But if you look at this team, they're better than their record was last year. They lost a lot of close games games that you think they should have won. Adrian Martinez is the best quarterback in the Big Ten already as a sophomore. And it may not be, depending on how Justin Fields plays, it might not even be close. This program's humming. You hear all these great things. The defense was getting better at the end of last year. The offense is only going to get better. They've added more weapons. But the biggest thing that makes me want to pick Nebraska over the likes of Iowa, over the likes of Wisconsin, is they have the easiest schedule in that division. The only team they get in the East is Ohio State. It's in Lincoln. Wisconsin, Iowa, Northwestern are all in Lincoln. All of their toughest games in the conference are at home. So not only do they dodge having to play Michigan or Ohio State and another one of the top teams in the East, they get all their good games, all the tough games at home. So I think because of that, they'll win 9, maybe 10 games and be able to get in, and that'll be enough to win the division. Okay. I think the conference is talented. It's deep. It's got a lot of talent, but I think there's no one elite team in the Big Ten, and because of that, I think they might miss out on the playoffs for yet a third straight year.